Game started.
All right, Larry 3 starts off with e4. I think it's time to play a Scandinavian here. Takes.
Check.
Ah, this is a funny line. I haven't seen this in a while. Let's see if I can remember how this goes. I think you block with the bishop first. And then when he relocates the bishop, you relocate your bishop because the bishop is kind of in the way of the knight. He went there, so you can put the bishop on g4 or f5, I guess. And you want to attack this pawn. If he pushes f3, then that's maybe a weakening of the king side. But if he does anything else, you can just take the pawn. So let's see what he does. He could repeat, I suppose. Then I could bring the knight in, block the check with the knight, and the bishop is outside. Before, if I block the check with the knight, the bishop is not... Before, if I block the check with a knight, the bishop would be blocked behind it. So, but now the bishop is out. Okay, but he didn't do that. He played f3, which I think is the normal response. Now, do I go to f5 or do I go to h5? Let's see. Well, my knight's not coming here, so let's keep this pin on the pawn for now. Maybe knight to e4 would be an idea at some point. Okay, and he develops his knight there, so let's go ahead and grab the pawn. I was thinking he might have just played knight c3 immediately and tried to keep that pawn. So let's play e6. I want to support the knight, and I want to open up a line for my bishop so I can get that bishop out and get castled. There's a check here. So he's planning to play d5 when I deliver the check, I guess. So let's put the bishop over here and castle. So this looks like an okay position for me. I think that's fine. A fine outcome for the opening. He can take the knight at any time, rearrange the pawn structure, but doesn't leave any particular weaknesses behind. We can kick my bishop around, and maybe I don't know, the knight on g3 is usually not that well positioned, but maybe you can get something out of it with knight to e4 in this case. Yeah, knight e4, why not? And then I should drop this bishop back, I guess. So how are we doing development-wise? Both sides have castled. He's still got his queen side to develop, and I still have one piece to develop. I can create a little more space for myself with the move c5. Maybe I need to play, I guess, knight d7 first. Knight to d7, pawn to c5, and then threatening to just take and give him an isolated pawn. Also, opening up lines for this dark squared bishop seems like a good idea. And if he takes, I can take with the knight. I do have to be careful about c5 in that it gives away the d6 square, but the bishop is controlling it at the moment. So c5, he can't play knight d6. I can just take it. So let's go with c5. I think that's the idea here anyway. Maybe he can give me an isolated pawn now, but he would have to give up the light squared bishop to do that. For example, taking here and then taking the knight. Oh, I guess he has to take the knight first. If he takes the knight, I have to take back with the pawn. Then he can take this pawn. Okay, but he's not doing any of that. He's maneuvering his knight. Okay, so that's so he can take back here with a piece, I guess. The queen. Okay. Oh, but he just took with the pawn. Interesting choice. So, if I leave the knight there, he can take the knight and we have this ram structure, which is not bad. My bishop is already outside that center group of pawns, so shouldn't be bad for me. So maybe I should just continue developing. I could gain a tempo on the bishop with either knight to b3 or rook to knight b6 or rook c8. But it's not clear that to me the knight belongs in b6. Maybe it really would rather go to f6. So let's get in rook c8. Drops back. So knight f6 now. If he takes with the knight, take back with the knight. If he takes here, I take with the knight. Maybe I can leave him with some kind of permanent weakness. I'm not really threatening the knight because it's defended, yeah, not only by the knight but also by the rook. So even without that move, it was pretty well defended there. But actually trading off minor pieces when the other side has an isolated pawn is a good strategy. He could have taken with the pawn there and probably should have. Probably should have taken with the pawn to give himself that big pawn center, but then I would try and undermine it. There are tactics on this diagonal. If he ends up defending this pawn with a piece, for example, then I have bishop to, I can maybe take there and play bishop to c5. In the right circumstances, getting a nice pin there along that diagonal. If I take the knight now, he will definitely take back with a pawn because he doesn't want to give up the rook. So I don't think I will do that. I think I will leave his knight there and maybe get my queen out. I could play the queen to b6 and bring a rook over to d8 and just pile up on that pawn. And if I do that, he might push that pawn forward. But oh, queen b6 pins the pawn, so it prevents him from pushing it forward. Maybe queen b6. He might play bishop back to e3. Let's see, well, now his bishop is here. Let's think about this again. I could play my knight to to h5 or to d5 to harass the bishop. I think I still like queen b6. So queen b6, he can't push the pawn. He might play bishop back to e3. I can bring the rook over. Then he can push the pawn with tempo. Can block. I can't block. Well, let's see if he plays bishop to e3. Maybe if he does that, I'll move my queen again. Queen to b5 maybe. If he plays bishop e3, queen b5. I still want to get my rook to d8. Or maybe I can attack the bishop. Bishop e3, knight to d5. If he takes, I take with the pawn. I'm losing this bishop. My rook. If I open up the D file, this bishop is loose back on. If I open up the E file, this bishop is loose back on E7. So maybe throwing in bishop to B4 at some point is a good idea. Hitting that, hitting the rook. Yeah, so what does that mean? Oh, it goes there. Okay. Now he's got two pieces. He can kind of clear those pieces with tempo. I was going to say he has two pieces in the way of the rook, looking at my bishop on E7. But he can take here with tempo at least once. So maybe he's playing to create a pawn defect here for me. Say knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. That's not so bad. So I could play rook to D8 here, because if he goes for that, at the end I have rook takes pawn here. So he unpins. So knight back to D5. And then kick this bishop away. Is that an idea? And here I can take back with the rook, so I don't even give up the... I still leave white with the isolated pawn weakness that I can play against. So I'm thinking of playing the move f6 to drive that bishop back. Then there's a weak pawn here. I just need to find a knight move with tempo to take advantage of that. Maybe knight b4. Knight b4 to... doesn't work to c2. It doesn't work as long as the bishop is here, I guess. But after f6, the bishop has to drop back to g3. I could maybe play f6, e5, and if he takes, I have some kind of discovery on the queen. But how do I use that discovery? I still don't see if there's anything really great there. But he gets the queen away from there anyway. So, but that loses a pawn, right? Play here. Bishop goes back, and I just take that pawn. Maybe he gets the e-pawn here after all of that. So queen takes, then he has a knight move with tempo. Because it unveils an attack here. But where can the knight go? I mean, it doesn't want to go somewhere to give itself up for a lowly pawn. Could go here, and I would just take it. Could go back. Then, you know, I might have time to defend that pawn somehow. I don't know. It's getting tricky here. There's this pin along the diagonal this way, too, towards my king. But I don't want to spend too much time here calculating. Okay, just chases me back. Yeah, I thought there were maybe some interesting ideas that white had there. We can check it out in the chess engine. There are some weaknesses here, definitely this diagonal here and the attack on the d-pawn. Could create problems for me. But at the moment, Maybe bishop back to f7 would defend everything. If he moves the knight somewhere, attacking the pawn, I defend with the bishop, and that indirectly defends the knight. So maybe it holds it all together. Complicated position. So yeah, like that. So he's attacking the knight and he's attacking this pawn. So if I defend the pawn, takes the knight, pawn takes, bishop takes. So I guess he gets the pawn back that way. Bishop here, knight takes. Yeah, I have to be careful also this loose bishop here, right? Okay, so, but here is, this goes with an attack on the queen, so. If the queen takes, and I'll take with my queen. His rook is hanging. This pawn is hanging and this bishop is loose on e7. It's complicated. What can I say? Queen takes, bishop takes. That's all with check. Then I move the king. Then this bishop takes the rook. I can take his rook, pinning this guy and defending my, well, preventing him from taking my bishop. I don't know how that's going to work out. Yeah, he goes for it. Okay.
Check.
That was forced. So let's see what he comes up with here. If he takes my rook first, I take back with the rook. Get my rook out of trouble. Now he has a tempo move with his bishop, but he decides to take my knight instead. Yeah, he needed to get the piece back. So, material's even. And let's see, what have we got here? This is a loose bishop I should be careful about. Let's just put this on a good post. I have a slightly better pawn structure, but basically it should be an even position at this point. Let's see, let's activate my bishop next. That might not have been necessary to defend my bishop. Well, okay, but his pawn was defended anyway, so I didn't have a tempo move there. So I want to, let's just push this pawn forward. So my king has an escape square off the back rank. Where can I go? Maybe here, attacking his bishop. Now that I'm not pinned to the back rank, I should be in pretty good shape here. Okay, so he goes there. So, bishop here does not really threaten anything just yet. I need to move this bishop first. Just get my king off the back rank so there's no checks there. He goes there. Okay, so I want to, if I play bishop here, he can just attack it with the rook. But, well, I got to make a move. Yeah, so he ignored it. So now I can move this bishop with tempo. Where can it go? I can go here to hit the rook. The rook comes over here to defend. Can go here. Then he's got rook here skewering those guys. Let's push a pawn forward, maybe create a secure square for this bishop. He's not going for it. Okay, let's take. So let's hit his bishop. Let's see, 56 to 20. So yeah, we're down to the final minutes here. Final seconds, rather. Yeah, so I wonder if he's trying some trick here. I'm attacking this pawn. The question is, can he come in here and do something with a mate? Ah, but he attacked my bishop instead. Okay. Here. Okay, yeah, my bishop is a little short of squares, isn't it? Maybe here, attacking this pawn. Attacking my rook. I just wonder if he has something with, you know, rook to the back rank and bishop to g8. The king has to come back, and then he has a discovery. Yeah, so he spotted that idea. So let's see, how do I get over? Probably this way.
Check.
Ah, that's his idea. Okay, but I can block now this way, right?
Check.
Okay, so I don't think this was an example of marvelous play.
Check.
But I think I am winning this one.
White resigns.
So anyway, it'll be interesting to check out in the postmortem, and I will see you guys later. Bye.